You can't get things done unless you can get a hold of folks who are willing to do it. And everybody that I have called at the last minute, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, y'all, because it's just like Mike Williams said, we are Confederates, and we can go to Plan B. We know how to make adjustments, don't we? It all comes together. Thank you, Mike. You gave me such encouragement, and things happen, and we deal with it. I've known Mark Thomey for a long time. I guess 10 or 12 years is a long time. I met him when he was a skinny little kid in Monroe, Louisiana. We used to go over every year for the Mardi Gras parade and march in the Confederate contingency. And Mark did us a great favor. The very first year we went over there, it was a 4.5-mile walk from West Monroe to East Monroe, or vice versa, I can't remember, but we had to cross the river, and the smart people took their automobiles at the destination, but we weren't the smart people. We left our car at the origin of the march, which left us a problem on how we were going to get back 4.5 miles after walking 4.5 miles in 25-degree weather and sleet. And Mark Thomey came to our aid and took us back to the origin of the parade. And for that, I have been forever grateful that I didn't have to walk 4.5 miles back across that bridge. But Mark is a very special person to us. He's a native of Morrilton, Arkansas, where he graduated from high school in 1978. He attended the University of Arkansas, obtaining a BS in civil engineering in 1983. After 13 years as someone else's employee, he established his own consulting firm, Structural Engineering, and has subsequently been enjoying both the headaches and the rewards of owning his own business. His firm services clients in architectural, metal building systems, pulp and paper, chemical manufacturing, and wood products industries. Mark has been a member of the League of the South since 1996, and he currently serves on the League's board of directors. He has been a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans since 1997 and served 2 terms as commander of his camp in Monroe, Louisiana. He has been a part of the Southern National Congress since its inception in 2007, where he is currently serving as vice chairman of the Congress and chairman of the Southern National Congress Constitutional Committee. Mark and his wife, Marguerite, live near Blunt'sville, Alabama, and are the proud owners of a 21-acre farm. Thank goodness, y'all, we've got him in Alabama to vote. Which they named Terrebonne. Is that it? Terrebonne? All right. In honor of their French ancestry and the Louisiana parish where Marguerite was born. They have 3 sons, 3 granddaughters, and 1 grandson. I want you all to welcome Mark Thomey and enjoy.
Thank you, Pat, for that nice introduction. I appreciate you telling that story about me cramming your hoop skirt into the cab of my truck that night, along with Butch. Yeah, but we made it. So anyway, I'd like to start my remarks today by saying good morning to all of my fellow Alabamians and to all of my fellow Southerns who have journeyed here from across Dixie. Thank you so much for your efforts to be here today. On behalf of Dr. Michael Hill, the President of the League of the South, and Reverend David Jones, the Chairman of the Southern National Congress, I would like to extend to you their greetings and kind regards on this auspicious occasion. Of course, I'd also like to thank Pat Godwin of the UDC for inviting me here today and giving me the honor to speak to you. As we remember the brave and glorious Southern forebears on this Confederate Memorial Day. Memorial. This is a word which comes to us from the Latin memoria, meaning a remembrance of some person or thing. But my intention here today is not so much to dwell in our ancestors' past as it is to link that past to our present and, more importantly, our future. Now, given the makeup and the historical level of knowledge of this audience, there's no need for me to waste time recounting the glorious deeds of Lee and Jackson, nor of restating the principles and liberties for which they fought. And given the makeup of this audience, what I have to say to you today should receive a warm reception. However, Reconstruction marches on, and I have no doubts that some of you will find my remarks controversial, even offensive. Now, if you find yourself falling into these latter categories, all I ask of you is the courteousness of hearing me out to the end before you decide to throw rotten fruits and vegetables at me. But if that's what it takes for me to wake you up from your stupor today, then so be it. For my friends, we are at a critical juncture in the history of our countries and our conquered and occupied republic. So the time for gentle words and gentle tactics are over.
Hear, hear.
And yes, you heard me correctly. As a true and patriotic Southern, I refuse to speak of that political fiction, that foreign invader and occupier of our lands known as the United States of America as a country, much less our country. For true Southerners, our country is Alabama, or Arkansas, or Louisiana, or Georgia, or whatever state you happen to have been born in or now call home. And our republic is the collection of those states that we affectionately refer to as the South. No, my friends, my purpose here today is to urge you, to prod you, to do more than merely remember the Herculean deeds and heroic struggle of our Confederate ancestors for their liberty and independence. I want you to do your duty to them, to yourselves, and to your posterity, and honor their sacrifices and their memory by becoming what they once were: patriotic Southern nationalists. I want you to once again take up and actively work for their cause, which by right is now our cause, a free and independent Southern Republic. So what must you do to become a patriotic Southern nationalist? Well, first, you must reject and despise America and Americanism. Both of those things are the creation of Yankees post-1865. Both of those things are what have been presented to the world as America and being an American since 1865. Neither of those things is compatible with the South or with being a Southerner, because, as I like to phrase it, they just ain't like us. They never have been, and they never will be. The great Southern philosopher Richard Weaver drew the eternal distinctions and enmity between us and them in his 1957 essay, The South and the American Union. Weaver described Southerners as classical men. And by that he meant men who love fixed limits in all things. Men who recognize the inscrutability of creation and that some things will ever be beyond our understanding. Men who reject ceaseless becoming for accepted, statuesque becomeness. People who are tolerant and hospitable by nature and who recognize the irremediability of a certain amount of evil in the world and prefer to fence it in rather than stomp on it and spread it everywhere. Now, this type of man is wholly incompatible with his rival, the Faustian man. And that's the Yankee. Weaver tells us that, quote, Faustian man is essentially a restless striver, a yearner after the infinite, a hater of stasis, a man who is unhappy unless he feels he is making the world over. He may talk much of tolerance, but for him, tolerance is an exponent of power. His tolerance tolerates only the dogmatic idea of tolerance, as anyone can discover for himself by getting to know the modern humanitarian liberal. For different opinions and ways of life, he has not respect, but hostility, or contemptuous indifference, until the day when they can be brought around to conform with his own, unquote. This is why they look down on us and despise us and everything that we believe. This is why they ridicule us and treat us as subhumans who need to be watched closely and controlled. Why? In their politically correct universe, we are the only subjects that are fit for derision, opprobrium, and eradication. Why would any proud Southern in his right mind want to be associated with those people, much less be like them? Now, the next thing you have to do is you have to reject and despise the symbol of America and Americanism, this execrable, striped, star-spangled Yankee rag. How can we salute, much less pledge allegiance, to a symbol that represents everything against which our Southern ancestors fought and died? Does it even matter to any of you that this so-called pledge was the brainchild of a socialist named Francis Bellamy? That his stated reason for concocting and foisting that Marxist piece of claptrap upon the innocent school children of our country was to, quote, teach loyalty to the state as a virtue, unquote. Look around you. Has he not succeeded beyond your imagining? Our ancestors rightly rejected this foolishness, and so should we. Allow me to cite two examples of how a true Southerner should rightly view their striped banner. Jefferson Davis, a great man who stood on the steps of this very Capitol building and took the oath of office as our first president, once said while viewing this flag, quote, "There is the gridiron we have been fried upon," unquote. Admiral Raphael Sims, whose name graces one of Alabama's towns and whose statue stands in silent vigil over the city of Mobile, wrote in his memoirs the following, quote, "The flag, too, had a charm which it was difficult to resist. It had long been the emblem of the principle that all just governments are founded on the consent of the governed, and it was difficult to realize the fact that it no longer represented this principle, but had become the emblem of its exact opposite. That, of course, in unwilling states to remain under a government that they had deemed unjust and oppressive. Many bearded men were affected almost to tears as they saw this once hallowed emblem hauled down from the flag staves of Southern forts and arsenals. They were in the condition of one who had been forced, in spite of himself, to realize the perfidy of a friend and to be obliged to give him up as no longer worthy of his confidence or affection," unquote.
Yeah.